Turn in your Bibles to Numbers chapter 23, please. And I encourage you to bring a Bible, or I know some people like it on their phones, and that's okay too, but come prepared. I'm going to read for you, I think, 2 more verses than what we read together. I want to make a quick announcement. Give me a clock, please, in the back. I want to make a quick announcement about the Operation Christmas Child, the Shoeboxes. And we have about 540 that have been packed. And, that number includes those that have come back to us that you took. Now, there are many more out there, many more boxes out there that are in your possession. So please, we need to get them back here. I think we need to get them back right away. So as soon as you can get them back, and our goal is 600, and I feel confident that we're going to meet it, but we're going to meet it because of the commitments that our people have made in taking the shoeboxes home with them. So please get them, finish packing those. Make sure that you don't forget that when you took the shoeboxes, that it costs $9 to ship every shoebox around the world. So, we're also depending on you to, if you took 2 shoeboxes, write us a check for $58, and that'll make sure. You didn't even get that, did you? Just a couple of you. $18 will get those shoeboxes sent out. Okay. Thank you so much for all that you're doing to make this happen, and I'm excited about it. Next Sunday, we're going to have all the shoeboxes out here. We're going to have them out front here on the altar here, and you'll be able to see the fruit of your work and everybody else's work. And we're going to have a special dedication of these shoeboxes at the end of the service next Sunday, and pray over them and ask God to use these mightily in His work. All right, Numbers 23. Verse 20, behold, I have received commandment to bless, and he hath blessed, and I cannot reverse it. Now this is Balaam, prophet Balaam, talking to the king of Moab, Balak. Balak was trying to get him to curse the people Israel. He had seen how God's hand, look, it had been known. The word had spread like wildfire throughout the land, how God brought them out of Egypt and how He brought them out. Not just that He brought them out, but how He did. And by the great hand of God, the mighty miracles, the strength of God, and what He did. And then how they had destroyed the Amorites. And Balak says, we got to do something about this. So they hire Balaam to come in and says, you're a prophet, we want you to curse them. And so this is where we're reading here. And this happened 3 times, but in this conversation here, Balaam is now speaking back to Balak. You got the 2 separated? Balak, king of Moab, Balaam, the prophet. All right. Behold, I have received commandment to bless. And he said, I went to God and I spoke to God about it. And God says, bless Israel. Don't you dare curse them. And He hath blessed, and I cannot reverse it. He hath not beheld iniquity in Jacob, neither, hath He seen perverseness in Israel. The Lord his God is with him, and the shout of a king is among them. God brought them out of Egypt. He hath, as it were, the strength of a unicorn. Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob, neither is there any divination against Israel. He's saying, look, there is nothing that anybody can say that's going to keep God from doing His purpose, doing His work with the nation Israel. He brought them out of Egypt, and there's nothing that anybody can say. There's no spell, there's no curse, there's no anything. God's will is going to be done. According to this time, it shall be said of Jacob and of Israel, what hath God wrought? What hath God wrought? I can't say that without chills. And it may not affect you, and that's fine. But what had God wrought? In 18, let me get to my notes here. On May 24th, 1844, the first message, the first Morse code message that was transmitted was, "What hath God wrought?" Samuel Morse, the inventor of Morse code, was a great inventor, artist, and he was a Christian, a dedicated Christian. And that was the very first message sent over the Morse code, "What hath God wrought?" But he did not come up with that. We see it mentioned here in Numbers 23. I'm going to tell you of another time, and now I want to share my heart with you a little bit. And a lot of this morning's sermon is really going to be sharing what has happened in my life, what's been happening in my life over the last few days. I told a Sunday school class that on Tuesday, November 2nd, that I followed the election, excuse me, and I stayed up till midnight. Okay, very late for me, not for Damien. Damien's eating supper at midnight. No, really, one time we were talking, it was 9 o'clock at night, and I said, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" He said, "We're sitting down to supper." I was sitting down to supper. I said, "I'm going to bed." Anyway, he keeps a lot later schedule. And but at midnight, I made a decision. I'm following everything, and everything looked very promising. At midnight, it looked promising. Okay, but hey, you never know what's going to happen in an election anymore. So I thought, okay, well, Lord, I don't know. Is this your will? Is this thing going to happen? Are we going to elect a godly man, apparently? But it was 11 o'clock, and I thought, I'm sorry, it's midnight, 12 o'clock, and I thought, I have to get up at, like 5:30 in the morning, so I really need to go to sleep. And I need to protect myself. I was thinking, if I follow this thing on until they call the race for one or the other, Youngkin or McAuliffe, if I follow, and it doesn't happen till 1, 1:30, 2, 2:30, and if it doesn't go my way, I'm going to be angry. My spirit is going to be shot. And I'm going to want to shoot somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And I know at that point, I'm not going to be able to sleep. I know me. I get irritated, I get frustrated, get all worked up, and then I'm not going to be able to sleep. That's just going to hurt me even more. So I thought, okay, I just need to go to bed. It looks good. It's in God's hands anyway. And I thought, I'll go on to bed. And then if I find out in the morning that Youngkin did win, well, great. Great. I'll find that out, and that'll be super. That'll be encouraging. I'll be happy. So I bailed at midnight, and I turned everything off, and I went to sleep. And I go to sleep like that. Generally speaking, I go to sleep within, a minute. And ask my wife, she'll tell you. Sometimes it's like 5 seconds. Sometimes I'm like, "Honey, good night." And like 10 seconds later, she'll say, "Honey," and I'm gone. So anyway, I went right to sleep. About 2:30, I think it was, I woke up and I thought, wonder who won. So I grabbed my cell phone. I grabbed my cell phone, and I thought, well, surely the decision's been made. And sure, and it had. Youngkin was declared the winner. I was very happy, went right back to sleep. But at 2:30 or 3 or 3:30, whatever time it was that I woke up, I'm going to tell you, God is my witness. I laid there in bed and I pulled my cell phone and I typed in results of the Virginia election 2021, and I found the article that was going to give me what I wanted, because they don't always give you immediately what you're looking for. Found the one, found out that he had won. These words, these 4 words, shot into my mind. On my back in my bed, I put my hand up toward heaven, and I said, wow. And I said, thank you. And these 4 words went into my mind. What hath God wrought? Balaam said it of the thing that God had done in bringing the nation, his people, out of Egypt, and how he was granting them and fighting for them and giving them victory. Balaam said it then. People are going to say, what hath God wrought? What is this unbelievable thing that has happened that we are witnessing? And my hand went up toward the ceiling and it went up to heaven, and I said, thank you. And then I thought, but what are you doing? I thought, what hath God wrought? And I couldn't remember where it was in the Old Testament. I knew it was in the Old Testament. I couldn't remember well, I knew what Bible it was in. I couldn't remember what book of the Bible it was in. But that was unimportant at the time, because I thought, what great thing are we about to witness in our state? And it encouraged me. And I didn't just say, oh, great, conservatives won, and we swept the top 3 positions, and I'm thankful for that. And no, I spent time just thinking, what have you done? And what is your leading? And what is your leading? Because what you have done in the politics of this state, what is your leading for our church and our churches in this state? What lead are you trying to give us and to get us to fall in line? I'm sure you don't think this way. I have thought recently, over the last year, I have thought, I really believe that God's pulling the plug. And I believe that God is kind of lifting his hand up off of this earth. And evil is going to just drive this thing down the drain. In God's will, understand. You have to understand, evil never wins over God. Ever. Yeah, but it killed Jesus. No. God gave his son. Jesus gave up his life. Evil didn't kill him. God says, I'm going to allow that. And the devil doesn't do one thing in this earth, but that God doesn't say, I will allow that. And we have to understand that. Our days and our nights and our weeks are filled with anxiety and uncertainty and fear. And it rules, it's beginning to rule some of our lives. And let me tell you something, anxiety and fear and unbelief only hurts you. It's not God. God knows what he's doing. And I believe that God told me early in the morning on November 3rd that I still am working, and I am still going to preserve our freedoms for a while longer. I'm still going to give you the opportunity. Who knows what could have happened in the next 4 years here in this state? And I was consumed, and I had my phone in one hand, and my hand was up at the other, and I brought my other down to my phone, and I went to my little notes. How many of you have a note app on your phone? Right, where you type something you want to remember. You can't forget it. And look, and I forget a lot of things. I wake up in the middle of the night often, and the Holy Spirit's telling me something, and I'll think, oh, that's really great. And I wake up in the morning later on and go, what was that? I don't recall what he was saying. I don't trust me anymore. I took my phone, I started typing out this sermon right there. To whom much is given, much is required. And God is still trying to do great and mighty things on this earth in the salvation of people. What hath God wrought? It's saturated my mind over these last 5 days. What hath God wrought? What is our responsibility as a people of God and as Clover Hill Baptist Church and as this church toward Him? When God gives to us great victory, when His grace is so evident all around us, what is He expecting us to do? Is it merely Is winning the election, is it merely a sense of winning that you rejoice over? And the fact, well, I won't be as irritated as soon as Youngkin takes office. I won't be as irritated every day as I have been over the last 4 years. Is that it? And then with nothing more on your mind as in your responsibility, in our responsibility to God, do we just move on and continue to live the same life? I believe that the election was a wake-up call. Not in a bad way. Surely the goodness of God calleth thee to repentance. God says, why do I always have to beat you down and reduce you to nothing to get you to look up to me? Surely in the times of goodness, when I bless you and I give to you things that you're longing to have, surely even in those times we would turn to God. I believe that November 2nd and the victory that we had in this election is one of those times. I believe it is a time for God's people to not just say, oh, great, we won it, and then just turn right away from that and go on about our business like we normally do. I think that's a tragedy for the cause of Christ. I find myself more inspired and motivated to use this improbable victory as an opportunity. Hey, let's double down. You hear a lot about doubling down, don't you? The election happens. The whole state and the whole United States should be learning a lesson from what just happened. And not just in Virginia. It echoed around the United States in other elections too. But you know what they say about those that would take this country and that are trying to destroy this country? They just double down. I say, let's God, as the people of God, let's double down this morning on our efforts, on our vision, on our passion for the cause of Christ. When are God's people going to double down? Oh, we get mad, we get upset as we see. And listen, Satan is doubling down every day of his life. When are we going to match that same resolve as the people of God? And when are we going to double down for the cause of Christ? There are people in this room that God has for you a ministry, that God has for you a change of life, that God has for you the opportunity to serve here. When are we going to double down and finally look at God and say, I'm in. I'm going to sell out for the cause of Christ? Because that is the only thing that will matter one day. Is what have we done for Christ? And I want to invite you. I want to ask you to join me in this effort. Listen, on December 12th, this has been planned for weeks now, but on December 12th, in the morning service here, I'm going to unveil, I'm going to reveal. It's going to be a reveal. Our plans for 2022. We have a theme for the church. We're going to follow this theme. Everything that we do during the 2022 is going to be around this theme, and it's all going to revolve around the gospel of Jesus Christ. What more important thing is there than the gospel of Jesus Christ? And I want you to allow God to work in your heart like you never have before. I want you to say, I would love for you to look up to God and say, what can I do? What is the place that I need? Where do I fit in the work of God? And I want you to take your place. And look, and when I say I, me, I probably shouldn't be saying it that way. I want you to look at God and say, I want to follow you. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. And I believe that God, in a very great and wonderful, victorious way, said, I'm still about reaching souls, and I'm going to give Virginia, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity. I want to give you a breather. I just mean he's trying to convince us that he's not done here, folks. And what role are you playing? COVID, and God allowed COVID. Do you think that God didn't control COVID? Do you think that God couldn't control COVID? He absolutely could. But what He doesn't control is our response to these things that come into this world and come into our lives to challenge our devotion to God. He does not control your and my response to it. Sometimes I wonder in this time of COVID, have we spent more of our days and more of the minutes of our lives thinking about how to stay healthy, and we haven't given one second thought to people that are dying and going to hell, and we are the ones that are supposed to be reaching them. I'm for being smart. I am. I'm for not being reckless and crazy and cavalier about this thing. But I know this. The minute that we start thinking more about our health and less about the cause of Christ, we are not right with God, individually and collectively as a church. And we're not. We're not, folks. And we have got to get back in the saddle. And God, instead of smacking us, backhanding us on Tuesday, He says, I'm going to give you a great victory. But but I have a plan. And I want my people down on earth to double down in reaching the lost for Christ. Does His goodness motivate us to a greater love of Him? Does it inspire us to a greater service? Does it move us to lift up His Son like never before? I have several ideas. I have 3 ideas this morning. Actually, the 3 areas in which God expects us to address as we look to Him and join Him in 2022, and really now, but in the near future, in a renewed effort to carry the gospel to the greater Chesterfield and Richmond area. Point number 1, may we humble ourselves in response to the grace of God shining upon us. If my people, which are called by my name, will what? First thing. And I'm not preaching on 2 Chronicles 7:14, but the first thing in that verse was humble themselves. We have got to get back to a position of humility before God. We have got to. Until we empty ourselves of ourselves, He cannot fill us with Himself. And it is Him that will do the work of God through us. We can't do God's work on our own, in our own power, in our own flesh, in our own strength. It's not done that way. And it can't be. It is a supernatural work done with a supernatural power of a supernatural God. And we have to empty ourselves of ourselves. We have got to humble ourselves. To humble ourselves is to see ourselves as God sees us, and to yield to His will for our lives. Exodus 10:3, Moses asked Pharaoh, How long will you refuse to humble yourself? How long are you going to stay on this same path? It's not working out for you and your people. How long are you going to refuse to humble yourself before God? And I want to pose that question to you, to our church, to every church, every Bible-believing church, Christ-honoring church. How long are we going to refuse to humble ourselves before an almighty God and say, I sell out. I empty myself of myself. I want your filling. I want your purpose. I want to know. Maybe I've never even known what your purpose is for my life. I want to know it. On my knees, I give myself to you. Point number 2, may we consecrate our lives afresh to God, seeking to honor Him more greatly every day of our lives. In the Bible, the word consecration means the separation of oneself from things that are unclean, especially anything that would contaminate one's relationship with a perfect God. When are we going to turn it over? When are we going to look at the sinful things that, if I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear me, that get in the way of our prayers, that get in the way of His filling, that get in the way of everything, that clog everything up? I was looking into my closet, which my closet went from being about 7 feet long to now it's about 4 feet or 3.5 feet when I got moved into the living room closet when my daughter and the children came in to live with us. Now all of my stuff's in the living room closet. If I leave one shirt hanger in there that doesn't have a shirt on it, it starts to clog up. I looked in there the other day, and there was 2 here and 1 there and 3 over here and 2 over here. They were spread out, but they were hangers in my closet, and I'm getting ready to hang up some more stuff, and I'm like, it's just too tight in here. I started removing these empty hangers, and guess what? Lo and behold, guess what? I had more room. And as I removed the hangers out of the closet, I thought, isn't that just like sin? It's just a little thing. But when you take a little thing, and it becomes 2 little things, and it becomes 5 little things, and it becomes 10 little things, it clogs your life, and it fills your life full of wickedness, and God can't fill you. You say, I don't know what it is to be filled of God. That's because we don't know what it is to be consecrated, to turn it over, to examine our lives often and say, God, what is in my life that I shouldn't be doing? Watching things that we shouldn't be watching. Look, there's a principle in the Bible. I will put no evil thing before my eyes. Something like that. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Sometimes it's a wicked thought life. Sometimes it's wicked shows we're watching. Sometimes it's people that would lead us away from God that we're allowing in our life because we like them more than we like God. Consecration, humility, yielded. God, reveal the things in my life that shouldn't be. Reveal the hangers that are empty and aren't doing anything in my life except preventing your power from filling me. God, reveal those to me and help me to get them out. We need to humble ourselves. We need to consecrate our lives to God anew. After 40 years in the wilderness, the children of Israel were about to cross over Jordan into the promised land. And what did Joshua say? Joshua told the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. But we've got to make room for Him. Sometimes we wonder, I never see amazing things in my life. It's because we haven't consecrated ourselves. It's because we're filthy and we're okay with it. At least a prodigal son had enough sense to go back home and to get up out of that pig pen and go back home. We are content to live right there, eating the best of what the world has to offer. And listen, and as it goes down and as we chew on it and swallow it, it tastes good to us, but it is empty. And it's not godly, the things of this world. And God says, as long as you keep pumping that stuff into you, there's no room for me. I think that God's people need to humble themselves. Look, you, me, all of us, we need to humble ourselves before God, consecrate our lives, turn it over, give God the control. Let God do in you what He so desires to do, folks. Point 3, may we allow these decisions to unite us, the humbling, the consecrating of our lives to God. May we allow these to unite our church as we seek to lift Him up to a fallen world. I was talking to somebody the other day about they're struggling in life, they have problems, and they want to go see a counselor. And I said, okay. And they said, thinking about going to see an unsaved counselor. And I said, why? I said, what kind of a witness is that to the unsaved counselor? If he questioned you about your religion. Are you religious? Yeah, I think I am. Well, tell me about it. Well, I'm a member of Clover Hill Baptist Church. Okay. So you're one of them. Okay. And we are a child of God, and we go to an unsaved person, and I'm going to kick that thing just right off of this platform. We go to an unsaved man, and we're asking him to help figure us out and help straighten us out. And you got to know what's going through his mind is, yeah, that's right, because your Bible isn't power. Yeah, that's right, because your God is not powerful. So you got to come see me. What kind of a witness is that? I promise you, look, and I'm not, Christian counselors, I'm not against them, but I'm saying that there are a lot of people that go to them, and there are sometimes when you have specific problems that you may need that. And so understand, I'm not knocking, I'm not shooting all of that down, but I'm saying a lot of people go to Christian counselors and unsaved counselors because they don't have a walk with God. They don't know God. So what do you do when you're at the end of your rope? Instead of turning to God, you go to somebody else. I believe that with a humble spirit, that we ought to rededicate our lives to God, consecrate our lives, get the junk out, get God in. And I believe that we ought to allow these things to unite us. Jesus said, Matthew chapter 3, and if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Unity. We've got people, listen, this church and other churches, it happens everywhere, but we have got to stop the infighting and the criticizing of one another and unite in humility to God and consecrate ourselves to the purpose of God and to the cause of Christ and move forward. When we talk about one another, in this church, we talk about one another, that is not unity, and that is pride, and that is arrogance, and it is sinful, and God says, I cannot operate there. I know everybody wasn't a big fan of the color scheme in here, and I know that some people told me that, and some people said, I'm not a big fan of this color scheme, and I'm talking about this now a year later. A little over a year later. And I had those that told me that says, look, I'm not a big fan of it, but it's not a problem for me. Yes, we have different tastes. Yes, we have different ways that we might do things. But we've got to come together. We've got to come together, and we've got to get behind the cause of Christ. We've got to get behind bus ministries. We've got to get behind Awana programs. We've got to get behind, again, visitation and going out. Listen, let me challenge you. Who's in this church right now today, because you got them into this church? We need to unite under the cause of Christ and let all the side noise, all the things that the devil would rear up and say, look at that! Doesn't that make you angry? We got to shoot that down and say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how I feel about that, or about this, or about those things back there. What matters is the cause of Christ. That's what matters. What hath God wrought? Why did he decide to do his work to do the work of the New Testament church through his people? That's something that he wrought, that plan to work through us. As I've said recently, you're not going to find Jesus preaching on a street corner somewhere, Jesus in the flesh. Jesus can preach on that street corner, but it will be done through us. Jesus can witness to people, but it will be done through us. When's the last time? And look, and I've done this, I'm getting in more of a habit to use this line in my witnessing with a tract, is giving it to somebody and saying, has anybody told you that God loves you today? And when they say no, which they generally will, you say, well, he does, and I want to give this to you here. He wants to spend eternity with you. Read this. This will tell you about it. We have got to get behind the cause of Christ. We have got to unite, and we've got to stop looking at each other and, well, I just don't like the way they do things. I don't like the way they think. And I surely don't like the way their kids grew up, and I don't like the way they act, and they're too loud, and they're too quiet, and they like this team, and I like that team. And come on, folks. We got to put all that in the trash. And we've got to unite in humility, in dedication, consecration under the banner of Christ. How's the hymn go? Roused in soldier, rally round the banner, ready, steady, pass the word along, onward, forward, shout aloud, Hosanna, Christ is captain of the mighty throng. And we have got to unite again under the captain and be about his work. And stop worrying about all of these insane things that draw our attention away from Christ and his cause. What hath God wrought? He's given us a victory. This past week has given us a victory in this state. And I do believe, as much as I'm standing here before you today, I do believe that God says, now, I'm going to take some of the stress off of you Virginians, and we are responsible to take it and run with it. We are responsible to take it and not just say, thank you, God, and go on and use that blessing, that victory, to continue to pad our comfort, to continue to pad our bank accounts, to continue to pad our lifestyle down here. Somebody tell me, if you know the answer to this question, what kind of 401k did Paul have? Yeah, put your hand down over there. Hey, listen, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have a 401k. I'm saying when that matters more to you than the cause of Christ, there's the problem. There's the rub. There's the issue. Yes, there are a lot of things that are okay to do in organizing your life and your finances and relationships and professions. But look, the minute that they become, they take a higher priority in our life over what God hath wrought, then we're full of ourselves and we're kidding ourselves to think that we're going to reach our neighbors, our neighborhoods, and our community for Christ. I'm going to do something different this morning. And so Tammy, just stay right where you're at. I'd like to ask you this morning, if you would, what I want to do is I want our people to come down this morning, and I want us to get close together. And I want to have a prayer of rededication in this church to move forward. I want to have a prayer of humility. I want to have a prayer of consecration. I want to have a prayer of unity. And that God would help us, help these things to be so that we can respond to his goodness in a way maybe like we never have before. So if you come down, make your way down. If you can't, and if you stay where you're at, because you can't come down, I understand that. But if you at all can come down, leave your seat and come down here, take a seat up front. Those of you that can stand, just come and stand around this altar, and let's gather together this morning.